Okay. Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar mini-series. Apologies that we started a few minutes late. As always, there's minor technical aspects to finish in the preparation and the launch for our webinar mini-series. We will be sharing the screen with the presentation in just a moment. Before we go further, I would like to say that there is interpretation from English to Arabic, and you can access that at the bar at the bottom. Donc للجماعة إذا تحب تسمع بالعربي في مترجم فيها الريبن بار اللوتة اللي هي موجود البتن وتنزل عليها باش توصل للغات واللغات بالثور نتاع الكوكب كأنه الكوكب وإنجليش وعربي هناك. Okay, so I'm just explaining that there is interpretation and that the webinar will be recorded in both languages for later publication. So, like I mentioned a moment ago, we will be sharing the appropriate screen with the banner slide so you can see everyone who will be involved today. And I would like to thank you for joining the beginning of our webinar mini-series on scaling resilient nature-based water solutions in MENA. So our first webinar is today, and then the second in the series is on 8 June. Today, we focus on practical experiences and learnings from implementation of resilient nature-based water solutions in the MENA region. And on 8 June, we progress to pathways for scaling them more broadly. So before beginning, I would like to extend my thanks for the involvement of our project team and core government partners in Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. So these are the people who've been involved in designing and delivering the work and really who we're delivering it for, these government agencies in the 4 countries where we're working in Murunah. I would like to thank FCDO who support the project financially and technically. I would also like to thank the speakers and panelists, including today from UN Habitat and Government of Egypt. And then coming next week, we will have from Islamic Development Bank, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and the Palestinian Authority. And finally, I would like to thank the broader team who are supporting this event, both in front and behind the scenes. On the agenda today, I will start by giving a really brief overview of what we mean by resilient nature-based water solutions before turning over, before turning over to Anton Klanchuk from FCDO for a brief scene-setting statement on the role of nature-based solutions in climate change adaptation in MENA. Following that, we will hear from our project experience and the 4 pilot projects that we've worked on in Murunah in Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. Following that, we'll have a moderated panel discussion on the evidence needs for scaling and broader examples of nature-based solutions in MENA. So there are 2 chances for Q&A. So please, audience members, please feel free to put your questions or comments into the chat. And then during the Q&A component connected with the project presentations, we will address those, and then also following the moderated panel. Okay, very last point to reiterate, موجود المترجم إذا تبي تسمع بالعربي امشي اللوطة في البتن فيها 3 نقطات وفيها الثور متاع الكوكب وفيها الإنجليزي وعربي. So please, if you would like interpretation, please access it in that way. Okay, and now let's go to the next slide, please. And here you see our wonderful panel and speakers today. So if you can keep going. And keep going. And next one, sorry. Yep. Okay, so prior slide. No, sorry. There we go. That's the right one. Thank you. So very briefly, in Murunah and Murunah Plus, we are supporting climate change adaptation in agricultural communities through resilient households and resilient nature-based water solutions. We're working in Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine, and we're really looking to influence these solutions and support their uptake throughout the broader MENA region. Within Al Murunah, we focus on biophysical, socioeconomic, and governance systems and working in market, policy, and institutional contexts. With Al Murunah Plus, we enhance positive gender norms in households and community organizations with leaders. And we work on social norms, construction, capacity building, and access to resources. So together we can say that we work on agricultural-oriented livelihoods, as well as the social organizations and resource management organizations that link with them. Can we go to the next slide, please? One aspect that you will hear a lot about from the different presenters is around how we're working across systems. Next slide, please. So we're working across what we think of as the biophysical system, so water, agriculture, ecology. We're working across economic systems which relate to market access and value chains. We're working across social systems, including norms, social norms, and how they influence various actors in their ability to work with nature-based solutions. And we're working on institutional systems in terms of look from the local level to the national level. And in Al Murunah and Al Murunah Plus, we've taken a co-creation approach for resilient nature-based water solutions. We have really taken an approach that emphasizes coordination between governance actors at various levels. So from the very, very local level, from the farm scale, from the small irrigation district to the local community, to a governorate or state level, and then to the national level. We're emphasizing sustainability of pilot interventions and local ownership and comprehensive and scalable investment packages. On to the next slide, please. And this is my last slide. So we are, as I've said, we're working across scales from the very local to the national in terms of piloting resilient nature-based water solutions, working on technical design and delivery at district levels for various services that government agencies provide. And at the national level, we're looking to embed our solutions and in national strategies and investment planning processes. So through this, what we're trying to accomplish in terms of impact is resilient food and water security, community cohesion and inclusive economic development at the local level, sustainable implementation and resilient service delivery at the district and governorate level, and at the national level, institutional readiness for climate change financing and scaling of resilient nature-based water solutions. And these are just two visual examples that you will see and hear more about from our partners shortly. So these are examples from our work in Palestine and Jordan. At the regional level, to wrap up, we are working on building trust and confidence in nature-based solutions to try and achieve these impacts, to share learnings about them. This webinar is part of that process, and really supporting the scaling of resilient nature-based water solutions. So through the information base, through the evidence and practice and implementation learnings, and then through the financing and policy mechanisms. And those are the topics that we will cover on Monday in particular. So now, my presentation concludes, and I will hand over to Anton Klimczak from FCDO. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for that great introduction on all the great work you guys are doing. So I'm going to be giving a kind of brief introduction of what's going on. So I'd first like to introduce myself. So my name is Anton Klimczak. I'm a program manager for Phenomenal at the FCDO, so the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. Now, what does Phenomenal mean? Phenomenal is the UK's flagship FCDO climate program in the MENA region. It's the Middle East, North Africa. It delivers green investment, resilience, and climate solutions across energy, water, and nature-based systems using a variety of different nature-based solutions, but also different partners. So we work from development banks such as EBRD, which we'll be speaking to on Monday, to partners such as IMI, and kind of everyone in between. So and it's through Phenomenal that the UK provides funding for Al Murunah and Al Murunah Plus to kind of help continue their work. And you're really interested what Phenomenal actually means. Phenomenal is an acronym which stands for Pioneering a Holistic Approach to Nature-Based Solution Options in MENA for Long-Term Stability. I think my previous boss had a fantastic day trying to come up with that acronym. So I'd like to thank you very much for inviting me today on this dialogue on resilient nature-based solutions. So first, I want to start by thanking IMI, who lead Al Murunah and Al Murunah Plus projects and our government partners. I want to acknowledge the national agencies and local organisations who work on the ground to deliver the interventions and in the currently very challenging contexts. Your collaborations, communications, and problem solvings over the past few years have really been appreciated by the FCDO, despite all of the kind of context issues that we've been facing. In terms of the Al Murunah project, Al Murunah is not just a standalone project, it sits within the UK's broader regional climate programme. It's become one of the most compelling examples of how climate work can be anchored in local leadership while offering lessons for the entire region. The experiences from the other Al Murunah countries, so Egypt, Palestine, Lebanon, and Jordan. I know, Stephen, you gave a slightly reorganised that list earlier, shows that the resilient nature-based water solutions can be technically sound, financially viable, and socially meaningful in different political and cultural contexts throughout the region. They deliver water savings, support farmers, and open new economic spaces for communities to restore local ecosystems. Perhaps more importantly, they demonstrate how they can succeed in highly constrained environments and that nature-based solutions can succeed. So nature-based solutions, why do we care so much about them? So IMI, you guys really are the experts, and it really impresses us, the whole team, on how great you are in bringing about nature-based solutions for improving people's lives and feeding into national adaptation plans. You do this by working with people via collaboration. So working with people, not from top down, but really kind of getting yourself within the communities that these impact. You're trying to fix issues without bringing about we're trying to find solutions without bringing about new issues, which quite often happens when we try to remove the concept of nature from the conversation of agricultural sustainability. Often you'll see this, we just think we bring AI in or some great new computer program, it comes in, this new tech, and instead of fixing it, it just fixes the issue, but it brings in 5 new issues. So nature-based solutions are increasingly critical to addressing the intersecting of climate and agricultural challenges in the region. As everyone knows, the region is one of the most water scarce and climate vulnerable on the planet. And by working with nature-based solutions through the approaches such as wetland restoration, agroforestry, soil conservation, and sustainable water management, we're able to stabilise degraded landscape and improve soil health, and most importantly, help the people on the ground that need to help adapting in the new climate, which is the new kind of changing climate, which is becoming ever more temperamental in the kind of global warming age that we're currently in. At the same time, that supports broader climate goals by restoring ecosystems, enhancing biodiversity, and contributing to sustainable, low-cost, energy-efficient alternatives. And just really understanding that lots of these solutions for the climate issues we just need to kind of rediscover them. They've been there in the past. They've historically been there, but sometimes I think we forget some of these solutions, and nature-based solutions is a great way to rediscover some of these expertise, which sometimes gets lost in this kind of new, which we need to bring back to help adapt to the new climate. So I'm very pleased that the UK has been able to confirm a final year of financial support for Al Murunah to keep us going up to March 2027, which allows us to collectively consolidate progress for long-term stability and push on policy alignment and pathway for scaling. This continuation reflects the FCDO's confidence in the partnership and transformational potential of this work. So today's workshop, hopefully we can bring together evidence from pilot lessons, communities, and use them to shape concrete and actual next steps. From the UK's perspective, there are two areas which today where your discussions can make a real difference. Firstly, clarifying policy needs. Secondly, identifying scaling pathways. The outcomes of your decisions will not only shape the final years of our Murunah, but how we as a wider partnership can embed in resilient nature-based solutions and early warning systems into national priorities and mobilise future investment. I wish you all a great and productive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton, for that introduction and contextualization of our work in FCDO's broader portfolio and really in terms of the climate change adaptation issues that we're working to address. I would like now to turn over to my colleague, Dr. Wasuda Abeyrathna, who will be facilitating the next part of the agenda today in terms of the partner presentations. And so now over to you, Wasuda.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so now we are moving to our next segment. We themed this as state of play. So I'm inviting Raga Tarek from Sidare to do her presentation of the pilot and the learnings of Egypt. Over to you, Raga.
Hello, everyone. You can hear me well, right? All right.
Yes.
Do you want me to share my screen or you will share Wasuda?
If it's comfortable, you can share your screen. Otherwise,
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Just a few minutes. You can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased that I will be sharing a presentation on our experience for the Murunah project in Egypt, which aims to strengthen climate resilience through enhanced water security using an integrated package of resilient nature-based water solutions and inclusive governance approach. In this presentation, I will be talking more about our pilot location in Azbit al-Hamra, Abu al-Mutamir district in al-Bahira Governorate. The area covers approximately of 1,980 fadans, and it's home for 25,000 people. And the agriculture is a primary source of livelihood, and with the artichoke representing nearly 60% of cultivated crops, along with other crops as well. And the local economy is therefore highly dependent on water availability and agriculture productivity, making the area particularly vulnerable to climate-related stresses. As we can see that we have encountered climate and agriculture and water challenges. Before designing the interventions, we conducted a comprehensive assessment of local climate risks and development challenges. The area has experienced increasing temperature, declining rainfall, and more frequent drought events, and a reduction in cold days as well. The trends were coupled by severe soil salinity issues and water shortage at the tail ends of the canal and declining agriculture productivity. These environmental challenges translate directly into socioeconomic vulnerability, including reduced income, limited market access, and less opportunity for both women and youth. And our key lesson from the beginning was that water and agriculture challenges cannot be addressed in isolation. They are closely linked to livelihood, governance, and social inclusion. Then we developed a Murunah approach, which is integrate nature-based solution along with inclusive governance. To address this interconnected challenges, Murunah adopted a bundle of interventions that include a biophysical side. We implemented interventions such as solar-powered irrigation system, irrigation improvement measures, salinity management, demonstration farms, and farmer field school. At the same time, we strengthened the local institutions through stakeholder dialogue, participatory planning, establishment of water user association, and inclusion of women and youth in decision-making processes through value chain development. This combination proved critical as our experience shows that infrastructure alone is not enough. Long-term resilience requires community ownership, along with local governance structure and continuous capacity building development. Our interventions were designed, as I said before, as a package rather than a standalone activities. We focused on 4 main areas. Firstly, we improved water management and irrigation efficiency. Secondly, restoring soil productivity through salinity management. Third, strengthening local institutions and farmer capacities. And fourth, improving livelihoods, particularly for women and vulnerable households. And by integrating those components, we aim to create a multiple benefits that improve resilience at both households and landscape and agriculture and water landscape levels. And for the irrigation or solar-powered irrigation system, one of our flagships interventions is the isolation of 2 units, serving 2 faddans and benefiting 14 households around the areas. And also the system replaced the traditional pumping approach. The objective was straightforward: improving water use efficiency, reduced water losses, as treating salinity, lower energy and operational cost, and improve the irrigation system in the targeted area. Importantly, this intervention demonstrates how renewable energy and improved water management can work together to address climate adaptation and mitigation objective at the same time. Then we come to the impact on irrigation performance. The results were highly encouraging. Under the traditional irrigation system, efficiency was approximately 42% following the introduction of the solar-powered irrigation system and improved water management practices. Efficiency increased to around 60%. Farmers achieved approximately 30% water saving per crop cycle, while pH losses were significantly reduced. This result demonstrated that relatively integrated investment can generate substantial water saving while also improving salinity management and reducing pressure on drainage system. Then come our second intervention, the machinery and agriculture input. The project also provided a tractor and laser leveling equipment. It was aimed to serve, or until now, it served an approximate of 500 faddans, benefiting approximately of 150 households. This intervention reduced water losses by between 15 to 20%, shortened irrigation time, and increased productivity by roughly 10%. What is particularly important in this intervention is that these gains were achieved through relatively simple improvement and land and water management, demonstrating that nature-based solution approach can be complemented by practical agriculture technologies to maximize impacts. Then comes the water management approach. A critical component of sustainability was institutionalizing. A critical component of sustainability was institutionalizing or strengthening the institution capacities. The project supported the establishment of Water User Association, consists of 14 members responsible for managing water resources, operating the solar-powered irrigation system, and coordinating with relevant technical entities. In parallel, farmer field schools were established for artichoke as one of the main crops and implemented in the area, along with sugar beet and maize sugar beet and maize. These schools promoted improving irrigation scheduling, integrated pest management, and better fertilizer practices and salinity management techniques. Then we started also by demonstration, establishing a demonstration farm for salinity management. Salinity, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, salinity was one of our key challenges. And improving the salinity or reducing the salinity would help a lot in the agriculture, in boosting the agriculture productivity in the area. To address this issue, we established demonstration farms that combined gypsum application, compost, soil leaching, and using of laser landing level. The results were impressive. Salinity levels declined substantially from approximately 4,000 to 1,500 millimoles, while maize yields increased from 23 to 30 arda per faddan. This demonstration farming provided visible evidence to farmers that salinity can be managed effectively through integrated approaches and encouraging wider adoption of these practices. And also this shows the productivity of artichoke land before and after our interventions. And here comes the economic assessment result. Beyond technical performance, economic viability is essential for scaling. So we conducted an economic assessment. Our assessment compared solar-powered irrigation system that we implemented with traditional irrigation approaches. Although solar systems require higher upfront investment, operational costs are dramatically lower, resulting in significant long-term saving. The analysis showed a payback period of approximately 6.4 years alongside reduced fuel dependency and lower greenhouse gas emissions. This evidence is important because it demonstrates that climate resilience investment can also make an economic sense for farmers and investors. And also the social inclusion and gender part. Resilience is not only about water and agriculture, so we also considered the other perspectives of livelihoods and social inclusion through the establishment of women-led food processing facilities to help them scale and develop in a value chain field or aspect. This facility is known as Nawalas. The project is directly supported 30 women through 3 processing units. Participating women experienced an increase of more than 50% in daily income, while the operational model demonstrated strong economic returns. And also to dig deeper and scale deep in the intervention, building on the Murunah core, the project introduced the Murunah Plus. It's a complementary initiative that integrates climate resilience with gender transformative approaches. The initiative or the project targets 150 households and 40 community and government leaders across 3 villages in Azbat al-Hamra. sorry, three villages in Bhira Governorate, including Azbat al-Hamra, Trugi, and Halauga. Also, the project has three interlinked pathways. The first focus was strengthening household dialogue and joint decision-making through EASE curriculum. Its session consists of eight sessions on household management, conflict resolution, and budgeting. The second part, or the second pathway, promotes climate resilience, economic empowerment through targeted household assets and income generating opportunities, along with business skill sessions to support their capacities in running these interventions or assets. The third pillar, actually, it builds on the capacity of the community and government leaders to create a more enabling environment for the women to engage in the decision-making and the leadership positions. The results are encouraging. We have witnessed an increase in participation of women in household decision-making, and improved financial management, higher income through the assets, stronger community leadership from women. We have spotted several gender champions throughout the sessions and empowered them to know how to integrate and how to work within the cooperatives, and also a greater inclusion within the local institutions. These outcomes remind us that resilience is ultimately about people. Technical solutions are most effective when they are supported by social inclusion, local ownership, and equitable participation. So this, in a nutshell, our 4 years of implementation of Murunah in Egypt. And I'm handing over to Asuda for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raga. It was a really nice presentation. So now I'm going to invite Dr. Ayman Rabi. Dr. Ayman Rabi is the Executive Director of the Palestinian Hydrology Group, who's leading a pilot project in Palestine. So over to you, Dr. Ayman.
Thank you, Asuda. Good morning, all. Good afternoon, all. I just need Raga to quit the sharing so that I can share my screen. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So now we are. Okay. So again, good morning. My name is Ayman Rabi, and I'm the project local coordinator here in Palestine. And of course, our project of Al-Murunah Plus was implemented in a place called the Far'a Upper Watershed, which is located in the northern part of the West Bank, as you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen, where Al-Far'a is, of course, 45 square kilometers in area, and includes 4 communities with a total population of 12,000 people. Of course, we focus on 3 main communities: Ras Al-Far'a, Far'a Kamb, and Wadi Al-Far'a. The main challenge, the societal challenge that it is facing, or that is currently facing the pilot area as defined by the stakeholders, are, of course, the first one, as you can see on the right-hand side picture, is the pollution of the spring water by the wastewater coming from the untreated wastewater coming from the refugee camp, which is, of course, mixing with the wastewater downstream, with the spring water downstream, and, of course, causing pollution. The second key challenge is, of course, climate risk, with, of course, variation in rainfall, as well as decreasing rainfall by 15%, increasing temperature by 1 degree centigrade. At least this is the expected climate scenario for the area with the repetition of dry days more frequently in that particular area. On the other hand, of course, we have a kind of a governance as well as policy like problem coupled with infrastructural problems, the governance and policy problems related to groundwater abstraction, where overpumping is causing spring to dry, especially in summer, of course, causing huge loss for the farmers and, of course, obliging them to buy water more frequently with higher cost. And, of course, the damaged irrigation canals causing loss of irrigation water, and of course depriving the farmers from getting sufficient quantities. This is of course coupled with the lack of capacity and farmer organizations as well as the low gender inclusion in that area. So what we tried to do in order to overcome these problems, we proposed and we did, of course, spring and agricultural canal rehabilitation to reduce pollution and water losses. And you can see in the upper picture how the spring looked like before the project. And the left side of the upper picture is how the spring currently look like. And hopefully that this will, of course, improve overall efficiency and maintain more frequent water to the farmers. We also improved the local water governance. We established one water user association. We built the capacity of the association so that they are now currently working on, of course, water allocation, finding alternative water sources, organizing farmers, organizing prices, and of course, reduce conflicts over water. We also implemented the Murunah Plus under Murunah Plus, improving gender justice and women economic empowerment. Where we, in the impact and results, we will be, of course, talking a little bit more. We improved farmer and stakeholder capacity on NBS and agricultural water management. We also created a space for the community, public space, as well as a space for women to market their products. We also preserve biodiversity, local seeds and local biodiversity through creating the agro-biodiversity garden, where this is something that will be also an important part to improve overall ecosystem through also improving the, let's say, the valley and the channel of the or the wadi bed next to the spring in order to avoid any mixing or over flooding that it is, of course, coming to the spring source and then making the damage. When it comes to the main results and impact, of course, when we rehabilitated the spring, we saved almost 15% of the lost water from the canals, and also expected that we are going to save at least 0.3 million cubic meter per year from the purchased water that currently farmers are buying as a result of the dryness of the spring. The agro-biodiversity garden is going to preserve the local baladi seeds, the native plants, and of course it will provide also a possibility for creating local seeds and preserving the local seeds, which is of course drought tolerant, and that can be also spread over and distributed to the farmers so that they can adopt this kind of local seeds. As I said, creating local community space for almost all the population of 12,000 people, and safe space for marketing for women product, and of course saving cost of transportation goods into local market, which is 15 kilometers away, and of course it is more safer under the current political context, in our case in Palestine. The Water User Association is created and effective, and it is working properly to organize among the farmers and reducing any kind of conflict over water allocation, and of course obtaining water from different water sources. We organized 15 capacity and awareness sessions for local water user association and for local stakeholders, including the planning stakeholder meeting together that was held with the local communities in the three communities. Under Al-Murunah Plus and the gender justice component, we organized 150 couples training and 20 opinion leaders so that they were trained on the overall justice, gender justice, gender inclusion, and of course, preventing the gender violence within the family, improving their, of course, family planning, I would say, economic budgeting, et cetera, at household level. And of course, we also managed to deliver 150 economic interventions as part of the economic empowerment and part of the overall gender justice promotion. And this is something that we realized it is viable. We also, when we calculated economic feasibility of the nature-based water solution that we implemented in relation to the spring rehabilitation, we realized that, of course, the return on investment realized from saving the water or creating this space for community, reducing, let's say, cost for farmers, creating other benefits from, let's say, for women, transferring their products into the market, we realized that the return on investment is more than 25% with payback period around 4 to 5 years, which is, of course, in terms of economic figures, it is really viable. Now, when we just talk about the lessons learned from the project we implemented, of course, resilient nature-based water solutions offer practical, scalable, and cost-effective pathways to address Palestine complex context, because here in Palestine, the political situation is becoming very sensitive. Restrictions is increasing all over, and therefore permitting any kind of new infrastructure in Palestine requires a complicated process and often is not really obtained. Therefore, when we focus on nature and natural-based solutions, that does not require that kind of like building or infrastructure or concrete structures, it is becoming less visible as a concrete structure, and therefore do not require that much complication and permitting. This is why making resilient nature-based water solution more relevant to our context and more, of course, economic and environmental friendly. We also realized that integrating ecosystem integration with water and agricultural management is, of course, definitely delivering sustainable as well as inclusive climate adaptation outcomes. It was also clearly evidence, as I mentioned, that from the pilot we implemented, that it is environmentally sound, socially acceptable, and economically viable with RIO, with return on investment around more than 25%. It was very important lesson that when we start planning for the nature-based solutions as a new concept with the community, it was just very difficult to place this concept within the community and making them accepting it. But slowly and step by step, when we start the process of planning together, designing together, community start to become more aware of this concept and start to accept and make it easier for ownership, and therefore ensuring sustainability of interventions that it is implemented under this of course project. The other important lesson that we learned when we implemented the gender component under Al-Murunah Plus, it was really worrying for us on how to introduce this concept in such, let's say, conservative communities, and therefore how we can really make sure that couples will be accepting the idea of just becoming together, attending training together, and attending planning sessions together, and how they can really, as a family, can, of course, jointly, including women, planning and, of course, overcoming their family challenges. One important lesson is, of course, once we design a relevant methodology and culturally sensitive approach, this is helping a lot in, of course, overcoming social barriers and, of course, realizing the gender justice. So the adapted East curriculum for Palestine local context, and I assume for the other countries in whether Jordan, Lebanon, or Egypt, was a key lesson and a key step in order to realize and to achieve the success that we have come, of course, together. And another lesson is, of course, in order to make this relevant to the livelihood, given the current circumstances, economic hardship that people are really in. Of course, the gender justice together with the economic empowerment is really integrated. And of course, it is a kind of a key pillar for ensuring gender transformation and gender justice in the region, and of course, particularly in Palestine. Talking about the way forward and the key messages, it is important in order to make sure that we can really build on this kind of success and try to see how we can move forward together with on how to upscale the resilient nature-based water solutions. We need to align national policies, and we need to just make sure that it is adapting this concept within the local policies, and therefore it is there is an enabling environment for improving and upscaling nature-based water solutions, whether it is water policy, agricultural policy, environmental policy, or even in the climate change, let's say NDCs, that it is developed and updated on a regular basis here in Palestine and in the region. We need also sufficient funding in order to implement and upscale nature-based water solutions initiatives. We proposed several mechanisms for funding, either from the national budget through the cross-sectoral ministries cooperation, or even through blended funding through the 3Ts, tax transfer, and of course donation, or whatever you call it. So developing local capacity, it is very important in order to make sure that communities are aware of the concept, are really part of its development and part of its adaptation and ownership, so that we need to make sure that it is part of the long-term sustainability of these kind of communities. We need to enhance cross-sectoral and regional cooperation to create co-share knowledge and experience that it is, of course, existing and the experience learned so far in the region, and see how we can really transfer this knowledge into other areas through upscaling widely. We need to prepare showcases and investment as well as business plans to promote the nature-based water solutions and encourage private sector to operate and invest in, given that, of course, we have a proven record of feasibility. We also believe that integrating resilient nature-based water solution with gender justice and economic empowerment, it provides an overall integrated livelihood improvement, and of course, it is a kind of a recipe for sustainability in the future. So this is in brief what I wanted to say, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman. That was such a detailed and interesting presentation. So now let's move to IUCN's presentation. So IUCN is the implementation partner, and they are looking over Jordan and Lebanon pilot projects. And I'm inviting to Amjad Abed al-Kader, who is Water and Climate Change Program Associate of IUCN Rome Office. Amjad, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Wasuda. And I would like to thank you for organizing this webinar to share ideas. I would like to introduce myself again. I'm Amjad Abdul Qadir, Water and Climate Change Program Associate at IUCN Roma. First of all, I would like to thank also FCDO for supporting this initiative in the MENA region, and IWMI for leading Murunah and Murunah Plus, the partners in Palestine and Egypt for sharing the lesson learned and their experience. And I would like also to acknowledge some of our partners who worked with us in Lebanon, SPNL and Abad, and in Jordan, Arab Women Organization. I would like to share the presentation for Jordan by now. Is it shared now? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can. I can see.
Okay. In Jordan, we have applied or implemented Al-Murunah and Al-Murunah Plus projects in west of Amman in an area called Wadi Assir. So we'll start with the challenges in Wadi Assir. Wadi Assir actually faces growing water challenges. Rainfall is declining and temperatures are rising, which affects the reliability of natural springs and water resources at the area. At the same time, irrigation infrastructure, mainly the canals that is used by farmers, is old and inefficient, causing water losses. Farmers are under pressure as a result of these stresses in water, with lower productivity and income. There is also social challenges with limited participation of women and youth in water management and in agricultural activities. So we could now move to the interventions. The key interventions included spring rehabilitation. We rehabilitated around 650 meters in the main canal. We also rehabilitated springs, the main springs. There are 2 springs. I will show a map later to show where exactly the locations of the springs and the canals in the map. There is also the establishment of Wadi Assir Cooperative. And this is the institutional dimension, or let's say community engagement with the institutions, with the local institutions. So the Wadi Assir Cooperative is mainly of the farmers, is constituted of the farmers. It was also registered, so it has a legal personality, let's say, to deal with the government, and this what facilitates the connection between the government and the farmers. Also, we have applied capacity building activities, including in Al-Murunah Plus, we have trained the local community and on gender empowerment, and we also conducted business training to give the basic business skills for the local community. There was also training for the cooperative that was established, so they can have the basic financial and administrative skills, so they can continue with their works with the local community and with the government. Additionally, the project helped to supply economic interventions to the couples who were trained in management skills, provided with toolkits, production toolkits for agriculture, dairy production, jam production. So the local community received equipment that can enable them to produce their own agricultural products and improve their livelihoods. Who benefited? Of course, we said farmers, community members and families, local authorities, and why this approach mattered. So saving limited water resources. We have very limited water resources in Jordan in general, and per capita share is like around 61 cubic meter per year. This is much lower than the global poverty line. So every water drops make a difference in Jordan. So the rehabilitation of the springs and the canals have made the water conservation. Also enhanced community engagement and coordination with the government. Of course, like when we established the Wadi-Sir cooperative, this helped to make a connection and a mechanism, and this, of course, will enhance the sustainability of the project. So we have a unit that will coordinate directly with the government, and this will make a better impact on sustainability. Also improve women's role, of course, because we have made women empowerment, improve women empowerment activities. We applied gender inclusive climate solution under Al-Murunah Plus. And the improvement of capacity of local community members through the business training, through there was also exchange field visit between the cooperative we established to other successful cooperatives in Mafraq to show successful models on reality and how do they run their business and sustain their cooperative. Here's a map for the implemented activities. We have our activities mainly focused on 3 canal sections, one in Qasr al-Amir neighborhood and Iraq al-Amir at the left side they are. And there's one on the left, on the right side, Al-Batayh Canal, and there also 2 springs, At-Tarabil and Ad-Dir. All of them are located in Wadi-Sir. So the key results and impact. The assessment showed 31% reduction in water vulnerability. The activities reach around 3,150 people with 675 indirect beneficiaries to adapt to climate change. Degraded canals and springs were rehabilitated. The rehabilitated bars in canals included 650 meters and the 2 springs with different parts like canal lining, putting grills to maintain the quality of water. With various activities in this part, 196 couples were trained in business management and received equipment for their production, for agriculture. So each couple had the toolkit to support their livelihoods. Local cooperatives were established to facilitate the coordination between the local farmers and the government, and to have also they supported the awareness, the training, so they had a vital role in the project. There was also a benefit to cost ratio or return of investment of 0.94. So every 1 Jordan dinar invested, around 94 cents were returned back according to the assessments. Now we're going to the lessons learned in Jordan. What worked are the implementation lessons: community ownership, established cooperative, ensure sustainability, local knowledge. We got also, we were also relying on local knowledge because it's a basic source for information. With technical design improvement we have done. So this also improved the outcomes and the implementation. Demonstration results increased the adoption of RNBWS. Inclusion learning, inclusive participation strengthens outcomes by engaging women and youth in the activities. Pilot, when testing the pilot and the investment, it showed the PCR of 0.94. And the integrated approach of infrastructure, governance, and livelihoods. The infrastructure, the canals, the governance by establishing the cooperative, and also the guidance of the NBAC, which is it's a national committee. The NBAC is a national committee created to guide also the project. Also the livelihoods improved through the economic interventions, the training, the toolkits that distributed to farmers. Regarding the sustainability and the scaling, The establishment of the cooperatives leads the operation and maintenance with the community and farmers, and the government supports strong. This makes a strong alignment with the ministries and national operation. So this is all about the activities in Jordan. And next is the activities in Lebanon, which was implemented in Ras Baalbek and Qaa. And unfortunately, we had many challenges during the implementation in Lebanon as a result of the ongoing conflicts. And also in the past, there was, in some times during the project, there was conflicts that delayed many activities which was planned. But we hope that we will have, let's say, a better situation in Lebanon and continue with better implementation. So the main challenges in the Ras Baalbek and Qaa include severe water stress and increased climate variability, frequent flash floods that affect Ras Baalbek and Qaa. And here's in the right side, this was, I think, an event in 2018, the event that happened in the flash flood event. Also, high socioeconomic vulnerability and fragile conditions, which is, let's say, I think, a main feature in most of the MENA region. Not all, but most of the MENA region suffer from socioeconomic vulnerability. Also, there is less institutional fragmentation and limited flood preparedness. So the implemented activities mainly focused on flood management planning by developing also climate adaptation roadmap and making the modeling to identify the hotspots, making climate scenarios how the flood will affect the areas. Additional to the planning, there was also capacity building activities such as business development training that conducted, and we were planning at the last year to support the couples, the trained people with the economic toolkits as in Jordan. But unfortunately, at the end of the year, there was the conflict period, and we couldn't introduce the tools. So also who benefited the community members, the local authorities. And why this approach mattered: it will protect the community's farms and infrastructure. It will reduce the losses. Of course, any disaster will happen, will have consequences, and let's say human losses, economic losses. So there will be a mitigation, reduce losses from flood now and also in the future, supports long-term planning under climate change. The key results, we have trained 420 people in Lebanon, so this makes stronger local capacity and this will make, let's say, better livelihood. Adaptation roadmap was developed, so clear priorities and solutions will be available, and anytime there is an opportunity and good situations for implementation, it could be implemented. Improved preparedness, so solid groundwork for future implementation. And the key lessons learned in Lebanon: planning and roadmaps ensure readiness. Working with communities and stakeholders increased ownership and relevance. And of course, one of the main lesson learned in Lebanon especially is the adaptive approach. As of course, we couldn't many times do the work on the site, but at least we could do these soft activities that can make preparation, and we could in case like when we have like a safe environment, we could apply these solutions. And at the end, to let's say to call for actions, why it's important to implement projects like Murunah or resilient nature-based water solutions. Why this approach is important? First of all, water is very limited in MENA region, and this is like say it's an arid and semi-arid region with very limited resources, and with the climate change also impact. So the situation for water and agriculture is becoming very hard to deal with, and the food security is affected, water security is affected. So a resilient nature-based water solution helps improve water management, farming, and also help the nature altogether. Why we need to act now? Of course, because climate risks are increasing fast, and we couldn't really anticipate how the impacts will be. The water patterns are changing in locations and with time, so it's unpredictable actually. So we have to be prepared. Communities are already under pressure at the region and at the MENA region, with let's say the socio-economic and maybe the political situation in general. So all of these drivers are a big importance for the implementation. Projects like Murunah shows that solutions already work, and what is needed. We think we need more investment to expand these solutions. Scaling is very important, and strong government support and policies can strongly enhance the implementation. Partnerships between government donors, local communities is essential to make projects successful. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Amjad, for the nice presentation. And now let's move to the final presentation of this segment. And so we are going to, I'm going to present building the evidence base for RNBWS in MENA, IMI analytical approach. So let's try to, because we have limited time, I'll skim through some of the slides. So what IMI has reviewed and analyzed, we combine 3 complementary streams of evidence to build a comprehensive picture of the RNBWS landscape in the MENA region. So first, we have a case study review of 23 projects. With the input and support from our implementing partners, we have built this review. And this was to understand how interventions are being implemented on the ground. And second, we have a financial data review of 48 projects to assess investment patterns and identify gaps in financial reporting. And last, we have a WCAD database analysis of 24 cases to examine economic viability of how value evolves over time. So this is our first study, national case review of MENA, which we did with our partners, implementing partners. So this is to understand how RNBWS are applied in practice. So we reviewed case studies across 4 countries, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. So these cases capture diverse real-world interventions across different contexts. While formal documentation is limited, many community-based and traditional NBS remain underreported, especially in MENA region. So from this review, several clear patterns were emerged. So RNBWS are already widely implemented, primarily addressing challenges within the water, energy, food, and environment nexus, particularly water scarcity and agriculture. And also the other main thing is that more than 90% of cases deliver multiple benefits, and many fall under ecosystem management restoration and highlighting strong regional capacity to adopt solutions locally. This is another key finding of this review. So this figure illustrates the relationship between project complexity and funding categories across the case studies review. So we observe general tendency for more complex projects to be associated with higher levels of funding. For example, several of the highest complexity interventions appear in the upper funding ranges. However, the relationship is not strictly linear. So there are also examples of moderately complex interventions being implemented at lower funding levels, and even some higher complexity projects within mid-range budgets. So this suggests that while complexity can influence funding requirements, other factors such as project design, scale, and local context can play a significant role. So this is the second analysis we did. We did this using WCAD database. So WCAD database provides a global evidence based on how land and water interventions are implemented in practice, including both cost data and land use for perception of the benefits. So we use this data set to understand the economic viability of RNBWS in the MENA region, particularly in context where traditional cost-benefit data is limited. So what we observed here is that the pattern is very consistent. In the short term, NBS are often perceived as costly with benefits not yet feasible and not yet visible, reflecting high upfront investment and delayed returns. So the average was minus 0.41 average perception. So it says that the benefits not visible in the beginning, but however, in the long term, this shifts significantly. Benefits are perceived to clearly outweigh costs, and especially maintenance costs remain relatively low. So the average perception is plus 2.09. So this suggests that the issue is not that NBS do not deliver value, they do, but that value takes time to materialize. Importantly, this is not unique to NBS. There are many investments also have long payback periods, but they are widely financed because the return are better understood and perceived as reliable. So the key challenge here is not only early stage financing, but also the business models and the certainty of returns. So this is the final analysis we did. So this is actually to find the missing piece of the RNBWS in scaling. So this analysis look at why, despite growing investment, NBS are not yet scaling at the pace needed in the MENA region. So from an investor perspective, scaling requires clear and comparable financial evidence, such as cost-benefit analysis, O&M costs, and metrics like ROI or payback periods. So without this, it is difficult to assess risk and invest with confidence. However, we looked at these 48 NBS projects across the region, and there's a different picture here because while there is clear investment activity, financial reporting is limited. Around 90% of projects do not report O&M costs, almost none report ROI or IRR, and most data focus only on upfront capex. So this creates a critical missing piece, gap in financial evidence. So as a result, NBS are being funded, but not yet financially understood. So the issue is not lack of activity, it is lack of financial evidence needed to be scaled. So these are the key learnings and messages from our review. Bringing these analytics together across the case studies, first, nature-based solutions are already being implemented across the region, addressing critical challenges. And the second observation was that the evidence showed that these interventions deliver strong value over time, but benefits increase the long term while maintenance costs remain relatively low, indicating good potential for sustained outcomes. However, a consistent constraint in every project we try to review is that the costs are not that materialized, or the benefits are not materialized, and there's no record of the financial evidence. So at the same time, there's a significant gap with limited information on cost, returns, and performance, making it difficult to assess viability and scale successful models. So to move forward, there is need to strengthen financial evidence, improve access to early stage finance, and enhance the enabling environment. So the overall message from this review is clear. NBS are working in practice, but scaling them will depend on improving financial clarity and supporting early stage investment. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I think with that, our first segment is over. There are a few questions. So I'll go to the first question. It is related to PARI area. I think Dr. Ayman can answer this question. So the question is that does third-party involvement in the development of the RNBWS make it easy to implement it? Would the RNBWS materialize without this involvement?
Sorry, Wasuda, what was the first part of the question? Who was involved?
Third-party involvement in the development of the RNBWS make it easy to implement it.
The third party?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by the third party? I don't know. What does that mean?
Can Stephen answer this question?
Yeah, so I think I've been looking at the questions coming in, and I would ask the presenters who have presented the work from the pilot projects to answer them individually. So in the Q&A function, there are a few open questions. So Bassam Darwish was asking particularly about the Palestine pilot project. So Dr. Ayman, if you're able to answer that question through the Q&A function, that would be good. And Amjad, Emmanuel Olweni, and excuse me if I'm mispronouncing names, has asked questions related to that were coming during the Jordan pilot presentation. So Amjad, if you're able to answer those questions from Emmanuel Olweni, that would be helpful. I think given the time, we're over the time. However, we have our panelists, we prepared for a panel presentation, a panel discussion. And I think if we're still able to have some of the panel comments in the next, let's say if we can have a short 10 to 15 minute panel component, then that would be a good way for us to wrap up with the contributions from wider perspectives beyond our own project team and through the reviews that we've done. So I would, at this stage, request that the speakers who have already gone, the presenters who have already gone, respond to the questions that are in the Q&A function. And I would turn over to, I think we should turn over to Dr. Matthew McCartney for the panel. And I see one of our panelists. I'm not certain if the second panelist is still available, as we have gone a little bit over, and he mentioned previous commitments shortly after his planned component. So Matthew, I will turn over to you now.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you very much, Wasuda, and thank you very much to the presenters who've gone before. We've seen a lot of the research that's been done through Murunah, and I think it leads very nicely into this panel discussion. So we heard from the panelists and from Wasuda, from the presentations from Wasuda, that perhaps what is needed is more investment in nature-based solutions, stronger government support and policies, and that scaling is vital for nature-based solutions. So we can see that there's a lot of interest in resilient nature-based water solutions. I think that interest is growing, and there's quite a lot of evidence emerging, both from the experience, but within the MENA region and more globally, that they can work. But a critical question remains, is the current evidence base sufficient to support large-scale investment and policy decisions? Or are we still largely relying on promising pilots and localized successes? So we know that scaling requires a different level of evidence than simply piloting. Decision makers want to know, and they need to have confidence, not only that interventions will work and that they're practicable, but also they need to understand under what conditions they work At what cost? We just heard from Masuda, that financial evidence, costs, returns, benefits, and performance information is perhaps lacking a little bit. So, but that is something that's decision makers need. They need to understand for whom the benefits accrue, over what time scale those benefits are going to accrue, and they also need to know whether benefits can be sustained under changing climatic and socioeconomic conditions, something that's obviously very important in the MENA region. There's also a bit of a question around implementation experience. So many initiatives have demonstrated technical feasibility. I think, again, we've seen that. And Wasuda made that point. But scaling depends equally on institutional capacity, governments, arrangements, financing mechanisms, stakeholder engagement, long-term maintenance, etc. And of course, the Al Murunah and the Al Murunah Plus project have addressed many of these issues, but they're not addressed in all that many projects. So many projects will look at individual aspects, but not many of them pull them all together. So another important issue is whether we've generated enough evidence on the enabling environment for scaling, not just on the effectiveness of the individual interventions. We also need to consider whether current monitoring, reporting, and verification approaches adequately capture the multiple benefits that come from resilient nature-based water solutions. So as we've heard already, you've got water security, resilience, ecosystem health, livelihoods, and climate adaptation outcomes, but are all these being monitored and over sufficient time to demonstrate the effectiveness? And then another challenge is moving from evidence generation to evidence use. So what types of knowledge are actually needed by governments, investors, development partners, and local communities? Very importantly, what evidence do they need to support wider adoption? So finally, as we look ahead, I think it's worth reflecting on what next generation of investment should prioritize. And that's what we want to discuss in this section. Should we be thinking about more demonstration projects? Do we need to look at better long-term impact data, economic and financial evidence? Wasuda would, I think, from her presentation, would argue that we should be doing that. Policy and institutional reforms, new financing mechanisms, stronger platforms for learning and knowledge exchange. So these are all things that I think we need to be thinking about that are important if we want to look at scaling. So with these questions in mind, I want to just introduce, I hope they're both here, but just the two esteemed panelists. First of all, we have Professor Mohammed El Sayed. He's a chief researcher and deputy director of Soils, Water and Environmental, Deputy Director of Soils, Water and the Environmental Research Institute, Agricultural Research Centre in Egypt. His past research has focused largely on irrigation practices, use of biochar, managing salinity, reuse of low-quality water, soils, controlling soil and water contaminants, and many other things. And he's written many books and many papers. He's extremely knowledgeable. And then second is Omnia Musa. She's a program assistant with the Knowledge Management and Climate Change team at UN Habitat's Regional Office for Arab States. She's an environmental architect and urban designer, focused particularly on resource efficient cities. And her research focuses now on assessing the enabling environment for the uptake of nature-based solutions in cities across the Arab region. She's a project coordinator at UN Habitat. So great understanding she'll have about how to scale nature-based solutions. So now I'd like to ask them both to reflect on the adequacy of the current evidence and implementation experience for scaling resilient nature-based water solutions in the MENA region, and on what additional conditions, investments, and knowledge are needed to move from successful examples to transformational impact at scale. And I can see Omnia has put her camera on, so I'm going to ask her to go ahead first. So thank you very much, and over to you, Omnia.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matthew. I would like to say good morning, everyone, and the afternoon for people who are, I think it's the afternoon in Cairo. So I'm Murunah Musa. I'm connecting from Cairo from the Regional Office for Arab States from UN Habitat, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today here. I would like to thank Stephen and colleagues at IWMI for this kind invitation, and also thank you so much, Dr. Matthew. Thank you so much, Dr. Matthew, for the introduction and the questions. All of the questions are very relevant, and these are all questions that I think we all have to find solutions. It goes beyond the discussion today. I think these are there are many aspects that need to be explored, but I will try my best to reflect a little on this. To answer your question, since nature-based solutions emerged as a concept in the early 2000s, and particularly over the last decade, we can see that there are significant efforts have been made to use nature-based solutions to address major challenges in cities and also outside cities, and to enhance resilience in the region and also globally. We see Al-Murunah and Al-Murunah Plus being clear examples of this. Nature-based solutions are particularly relevant to the Arab region, which is characterized it faces growing pressures from rapid urbanization, water scarcity, land degradation, and climate change. And it is a region that is recognized globally as the most water scarce region. 14 countries of the Arab region are among the 25 most water stressed countries globally. And at the same time, the cities across the region exhibit rising temperatures, extreme weather events, and environmental degradation. And this puts livelihoods, infrastructure, and ecosystem at risk. So at UN Habitat, we work with the national and the local governments and our partners to utilize NBS and integrate them in urban planning, in the housing strategies, in public spaces, and also to expand to urban-rural linkages. So to share some of the tangible projects that UN Habitat has contributed to, and maybe I can share my screen so that you can see some of the photos that, just a second. Okay. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm just facing some technical issues. I'm sorry, I'm facing technical issues when I share in presenter mode, so I will share it in this fashion. I hope you can see. I'll try to zoom in a little. So from addressing transboundary sand and dust storms in Iraq and Kuwait to the water and the energy food ecosystem nexus pilots and agrovoltaic systems in Jordan and Lebanon, and urban greening across several countries, including permaculture sites in Jordan and Lebanon, also to riverbank filtration and green-gray infrastructure and flood water management in Jordan. UN Habitat has implemented a lot of projects and generated a lot of knowledge, and I will come back to the last two examples, the riverbank filtration and the green-gray infrastructure in Jordan, to reflect more on UN Habitat's methodology and in adopting a holistic approach to nature-based solutions integration and the lessons learned from these examples. But I would say that there is one key challenge that still remains, and it is that knowledge and experience on nature-based solutions, specifically in the Arab region, still remains fragmented and is not sufficiently documented. And many of the practices that qualify as nature-based solutions in the region are not labeled as such. So it makes visibility, searching, and scaling very difficult to do. So recognizing this gap and to address it, UN Habitat has invested in creating knowledge at the local level and across the region. And during WOOF 12, we launched. So during WOOF 12, we launched the first publication guidelines for urban ecosystem-based adaptation in the Arab region, and this was with support from UNEP. And following this, recently we also we also launched the nature-based solutions in the Arab region. It's a collection of case studies, and this is a joint publication with the Islamic Development Bank. It's a publication that brings together nearly 80 practical examples from across the Arab region, from urban greening to flood risk reduction and integrated water, energy, and food systems. And the thing about this publication is that it's not just about the collection. How we approached the publication was that we wanted to understand what nature-based solutions means for the Arab region, and how nature looks in the Arab region, what practices are being implemented, especially that the region is very unique. It's characterized by aridity and water scarcity. So the publication creates four more categories for nature-based solutions, and these can be seen on the screen, and they reflect the major priorities in the region, including cooling, overheating cities, and flood resilience, water management, soil erosion mitigation, and sea level rise adaptation, and sustainable agroecology. So the thing about this publication is also that it says that nature-based solutions is not a new concept. It's a practice that there are a lot of practices that have been practiced traditionally in the region, but they are not labeled, of course, as nature-based solutions. And so among these are the Aflaj system in Oman, the Fugara system in Algeria, and there are a lot of others within the publication that have been practiced and are now documented. So now, in terms of enablers, I'd like to quickly go back to the examples that I mentioned previously, which is the example in Jordan and also the example in Egypt, riverbank filtration. So to reflect on the key recommendations from this publication, there are 3 points that stand out. First, NBS has to be integrated into urban planning, infrastructure, and housing strategies. It has to be implemented in a bigger scope, so it's not a standalone greening project. This makes them more viable and attractive for investment. And the second thing is that building the proof of concept is critical. So for example, in Jordan, we've worked on, in response to the floods that happened in 2018, we've worked first by creating assessments and flood mapping of Amman, the whole city. And based on the flood mapping, we were able to first pilot the first green-gray infrastructure in Amman, which is the Al Zuhur pilot green triangle, a pilot project, and it was the first of its kind. And following this, we were able to also scale up and implement in 5 other locations. And also within this work, we were able to engage the community and the youth by creating the Environmental Legacy Awards, Legacy Makers Awards. And this approach, it's also about making the knowledge available for other actors in the region, in the city. So the local government has access to this knowledge. They can build on them themselves. They can implement themselves, and also other actors in the context can also build on this information. So it's not just about creating the evidence for one project, it expands beyond that. And third is that strong partnerships with the local governments are essential, and that when the municipalities are equipped with the evidence and the tools, they are better able to scale the solutions beyond the individual projects. And this is demonstrated in the case of Jordan, but it's also demonstrated in the case of Egypt, in the riverbank filtration, where we started with a pilot of 13 units in Egypt, and this was later adopted by the government and scaled in 140 other sites beyond the project. And we're now working on developing national standards for the integration of riverbank filtration. So to sum up, the partnerships and the local government and community engagement and ownership of the project is very important, but also making sure that the evidence-based implementation informs the policies and the strategies and eventually leads to regulatory change. And lastly, embedding NBS in the wider planning, the wider interventions, including green-gray infrastructure hybrid models. And this makes them more feasible and attractive for investment. So I will stop here, but I will also try and share the links in the chat for everyone who would like to look at the publications. And thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Excellent response, and great to see what UNEP have been doing and how they've been trying to increase awareness through some very nice publications from the looks of things, and also in slightly novel ways, like that flood response story. That was really interesting. So thank you very much for that. I just want to check, is Professor Mohammed Al-Sayed, is he here, or has he had to step away?
Matthew, I didn't see him.
Okay.
I saw that he dropped off.
All right. Unfortunately, our second panelist has had to step away. If anybody has any quick questions they want to put into either the chat or the Q&A, please go ahead. Omnia, I just wanted to ask you one more thing. So you talked about working with governments, working with communities. I just wonder what partnerships you need for financing mechanisms or policy reforms to move from pilot projects to larger scale implementation. If you've got any thoughts on
Dr.
that.
Mohammed, do we need to elevate you to panelist?
Yes, I'm in the meeting. Yes,
Okay. I will. Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew.
That's all right. Go ahead. So he's here. That's right. So Omnia, maybe
Yes,
just answer a quick question, and then we'll move to the professor.
I'm so sorry. I'm here.
Okay. Let me just Omnia answer the question, then we'll move to you, Professor. Thank you very much, Omnia.
Thank you, Dr. Matthew, for the question. So at UN Habitat, we recently developed this publication in partnership with ISDB, and ISDB has also included a list of resources that they've worked on with other MDBs on how to assess nature and how to increase finance to nature. I think that we also recently had a climate finance training program that was implemented in partnership with GCOM Gap Fund Partnership and ESCWA. They targeted the local municipalities, and by the end of the training program, we held a forum where the banks and the donors they were all together in the same room with the local municipalities, with the local governments, and they shared their ideas. And there was this dialogue between all the actors. I think such discussions are very important to include all the partners, all the stakeholders, including also the financiers in the same room, so that so both parties understand what is required and they can somehow bridge the gap. So I would say more discussions where everyone has a voice in the table on the table. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Omnia. Very good. And with that, I'll hand over to Professor Mohammed Al-Sayed. So, Professor, if you're here now, that'd be really great to hear from you and your views on how the current evidence and implementation experience needs to be beefed up to provide impact at scale. So over to you, Mohammed Al-Sayed. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Mohammed Sayed, Deputy Director of Soils, Water and Environment Research Institute, and focal point for our project, the Murunah project for Egypt. I need to thank you for your invitation, and I'm so sorry to join you so late because I have another meeting before this meeting. For me, the Murunah project is one of the most close projects for me. It's very nice and enjoyed the time and the progress for the Murunah project day by day. I need to mention something is related to the agriculture sector in Egypt. The agriculture sector in Egypt facing a lot of challenges: water scarcity, water quality, climate change, population, soil degradation, and a lot of challenges well affected directly to the food security. So day by day, we're looking for the solution and how to adapt, especially with climate change, for example, and looking for a progress to adapt with this changing and the impact, negative impact of the climate change. For us, looking forward, something is like nature-based solution is very important because the benefits of the nature-based solution, for me, or for the agriculture sector in Egypt, and I think in the Middle East as well, the more we have a lot of the farmers is low-income farmers, and we call it smallholder farmers. And so if we need to introduce a solution with low-cost solutions, So looking for the nature-based solution, for example, and with low cost, it will be most preferred by the farmers. So the one of the two main point in my point of view about the benefits of nature-based solution and applying nature-based solution, the first one is the cost. It's usually using nature-based solution is mean that low cost it will cover, and the second one is safety, because if you using a chemical, for example, for treatment the salinity, for example, it means that more material you need to add to the soil, for example, or for water treatment in the same. So the two main points, the cost and the safety, is very important. And the second point to upscaling for nature-based solution in the Middle East is related to what we already done through the Murunah project. In the result, as we notified now from Jordan, Palestine, and Egypt, Lebanon, we have a very good result. I will mention something related to the Egyptian site. This is, for example, the soil salinity reduction, starting from 4 decimens to less than 2. This means that more than 50%. This means that and increasing the productivity. So we have a very good result. We can depend on the result from in Egypt and Jordan and Lebanon, Palestine, and all of our countries to upscaling and looking for it. We already have a very good result can be built on to upscaling the nature-based solution. And for Egypt, I will mention that for upscaling, now we're thinking about how we add the terminology of the nature-based solution in our strategy and how strengthening about this. I know that maybe the farmers already use nature-based solution, but they're not using the terminology. For example, they can use, or they already use composting, but it's not under the terminology of the nature-based solution. So now we need to stress about these cases to this terminology in our strategy. And when we started to select El Buhaira Governorate, for example, for me, it's much better. Governorate can represent the Delta, because the Delta region is very complicated area in Egypt and suffering from a lot of negative impact from climate change. So we will select very good site, and we can use the results that already gained from the site to upscaling and looking for the same condition for the salinity of the soil, low drainage system, and low productivity there, using cultivars with tolerant cultivars for salinity and water shortage. It is very good ideas already applied in the site of El Buhaira, and we can use it in different places. It can be suffering from this one. Now I finished my talk, and I need to thank you for the cooperation. I need to thank you for all of the effort that already done by El Murunah project, and I need to thank all my colleagues, Omnia and all of other colleagues that they presented the presentation, and now from my side I notified that all the farmers in El Buhaira and the surrounding area now looking for how they're trying to apply nature-based solution. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Professor Al-Said. That's a very good way to finish, and very positive note to finish on. So thank you very much indeed. I think your point about not just thinking about costs, but also safety was also very well made. I think that's a good way to think about things. So with that, I think we'll end. We've run over by quite a few minutes. So thank you very much, everybody, for staying. There's just one comment, not a question, but Bahadur Ali in the chat, he made the comment that this highly valuable project should be expanded, the research should be expanded to the MENA region, so the Middle East, North Africa, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. So somebody who thinks that this is worthwhile research and needs to be expanded. So thank you very much for that, Bahadur. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Sorsan, who's just going to wrap up, I think, for the reflections and closing of today's webinar. So over to you. Thank you very much. Dr. Sorsan, we can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, thanks.
Great. So this was an exciting webinar, and I will do my best to capture what was discussed in 2 minutes. What today has told us from Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, and Lebanon, and also the remarks from UN Habitat and the government of Egypt. Today gave us 3 consistent messages across every speaker and representing every country. The first message: resilient nature-based water solutions work, and farmers already know it. The soil salinity in Buhaira reductions, water efficiency increasing from 42% to 60%, returns of investment of 25%. These are all evidence that farmers see and feel for themselves. The representative of the government of Egypt reminded us that smallholder farmers are not waiting. They need action now. Nature-based solutions are low cost, they are safe, and it is what smallholder farmers prefer. What is missing is not the adoption, it is the policy that names what farmers are already doing and know. The second message is that resilience is built with people and not for them. Today, we heard how in especially contexts of fragility and uncertainties, it is municipalities and water users associations, women-led enterprises, community ownership across the 4 countries is what made this project successful. Local knowledge is not a soft input, as Anton mentioned, it is a foundation, and every strong outcome today was built on it. Third message: evidence must drive policy and unlock finance. What Al-Murunah and Al-Murunah Plus provided is evidence and a blueprint. The data is there. The linkage to financing frameworks with multilateral development banks, as mentioned by UN Habitat, ESCWA, and municipalities are ready to build together. Reducing input dependency, cutting costs, improving safety for smallholders. These are investment arguments. We need to make them heard. In conclusion, the proof is here, the knowledge is here, the partners are here, and we need the policy and the finance to match what is already happening on the ground. I hope I managed to capture most of the messages. They were much longer, but in the interest of time, these are my 3 messages.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sausen, and thank all of our participants, from the presenters and the speakers, as well as our audience, and with great engagement throughout in terms of the questions and answer. There were a few questions about follow-up, and we will be publishing the webinar online. So we will be putting it online and making it available, and we will provide a notification of that for everyone who's registered, as well as through other means. I would greatly like to thank you all. And as mentioned, we have a second webinar on June 8th, which is focused Monday, June 8th, same time, noon Cairo time, starting at noon Cairo time, focused on scaling. So that last point that Dr. Sausen mentioned in terms of the evidence being in place and now looking towards the policy and investment pathways for scaling, that is our focus for Monday's webinar. On that note, one last final thanks to everybody, and greatly appreciate your time and your interest today. And we look forward to seeing you on Monday, and if not then, in our next interaction. Thank you. Have a good day.